Well, let me ask you, at 14 years old, when you wanted to go Canada to go get a job, why did you need money at 14 years old? What were you doing with the money
Bro,
at 14 years
haven't
old?
you ever heard of the black cat?
Welcome back to another endangered story. It's great to have you back with me. It's been a couple of weeks. Sometimes I got to take a couple of weeks off to get the creative juices flowing again, but they're back, and we're here with a brand new interview and a brand new story from a guy who grew up right here in the west part of the island of Montreal called the West Island, more specifically along the lakeshore, and if you want to go even more specific, in Point Claire. So this interview is with Ralph Selbach. Ralph Selbach contacted me. Well, he didn't contact me. He sort of commented on one of my Facebook posts, and then we did a couple of back and forths. And then I said, I gotta interview this guy because his charisma is through the roof. And if he's gonna say anything about growing up in the West Island in the 50s and 60s and 70s, it's gonna be like an 11 on 10. And that's indeed what happened. If you want to sit back and feel good and feel nostalgic about your youth being channeled through Ralph's stories, then stick around for this interview because it's a real good one. I want to remind everybody that if you like the content that you've been watching on this channel and you want to encourage me to do a lot more, then there's a PayPal link down in the description below. Also, Ralph Selbach, he doesn't get into it in the interview, but he is a recording artist. He writes music, and I'm gonna put his, I'm gonna put his address right here so you can see what it is. And then in the description below as well, I'll put a link so you can go and check out his website. Now, as I said, he grew up in the West Island. He is a West Islander, but he's not lived here like many of you, I'm sure, for about 40 years or so. But his heartstrings get pulled back to the West Island probably on a daily basis, and you'll see definitely in this interview with who I now consider my good friend, Ralph Selbach. Enjoy.
You're living there, bro. You know how cool it is.
Would you have said I'm a West Islander at the time? Or I'm from
Yes.
Point Claire? Or what would you have said?
Yeah, definitely West Island, Point Claire. Definitely.
You were
But I think you would start with West Island. Who's that? Like, where are you from? West Island.
say West Island.
Yeah.
I think you're probably one of the first kind of age groups to say that, because I think before they would have said from the lakeshore.
No, never Lakeshore, West Island. I still to this day say I grew up in the West Island. I am Montrealese, but I grew up in the West Island.
I think we got our opener. that's that's our opener. I am the one. It's like that. I am Canadian.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, and then what? You're living there, bro. You know how cool it is.
Okay, so you're a former West Islander.
That's right. But you know what? I got to tell you something. You brought tears to my eyes with the pool thing. You know, when you showed movies of you at your pool when you were a kid, and then you're taking your kids to the same pool. I was at Ovid, Lakeside Park, I guess it was. My sister and I went every morning for, swim lessons and then swim team at noon. We lived there. And they had the chalet with the kids. You could play all sorts of games and stuff. What a great place to grow up, Jason,
How
the
many,
West
how
Island.
many years do you think you did that? How many summers do you think you did that?
Maybe 8. That's just a guess. I think, yeah, 6 to 8, I'm thinking.
So it's really
And then,
like when like the age that you can start swim team roughly, or all the way up to, because you didn't guard.
well, the lessons first, right? Because you were younger. Then you got into swim team for competitive. Then you went, you know how it is. You go to the other pools, you compete against them, etc. It was great
You,
and healthy and good for you.
yeah, man, and also it's you can meet kids that aren't your school friends. You branch out a little bit.
Definitely. Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and then,
It was really something else. It's a way of life. It becomes a way of life. It
yeah,
really, really does.
So,
And I mean, you look forward to it, right? Oh no, thunderstorms. That means we can't go to the what kind of, or when they have to clear the pool because the thunder's coming in. Remember what it was
you
like?
saw lightning. You would see lightning.
Oh yeah,
You would hear thunder,
everybody out.
and then you got to
Wait,
wait a
wait.
half an hour. The heck am I going to do for
And
half an
then
hour?
Jason, remember the dreaded words? Adult Swim. So all the kids had to get out of the pool. What was it for 10 or 15 minutes? Just the adults. Oh, come on, man. And hardly any adults went in
Yeah, I
because
was gonna say. I was like, we're doing
they were all
for the three adults. Can't we just corner them over there? Section.
either that or they were all half baked in more ways than one, not just the sun. You know what I'm saying? When I was a kid, I mentioned to you, I lived on Bayview Avenue. I used to go to Clarepoint, I guess it was, the rich street on the corner there on the water. I used to go fishing every single day as a kid, just by myself.
You throw it
It
back.
was, no, oh yeah, of course, catch and release. But there was a dock. It was amazing. But I mean, there was eels that put up a good fight. They wrapped themselves around the rocks, catfish and perch. It was really great for a kid. What a place to live and grow up,
Did your parents buy there before you were born, or did you move there when you were younger?
I believe they bought probably after I was born. I'm thinking. Yeah, you know what? They passed away, so I can't check with them anymore. But I do know how they met. My dad was German. He was in the war. He came across the ocean after. They met in a dance hall in Montreal, as you used to meet back then. They could not speak each other's language. I guess they could speak the language of love because, as I said, I do have a sister. So the world, I tell you, something else.
And your mom is what, like a Canadian mix?
Yeah, French, Canadian, Irish from the east end of Montreal, Hochelaga Street.
She's half French, half Quebecois
Yeah.
French, or France French?
Quebecois.
She's
Sorry,
half
sorry,
Quebecois
Jason.
and half Irish.
Well, yeah.
Which Catholic church was her allegiance to?
Kelleher was the family name, and back then it wasn't. Nowadays it's racial and everything like that. Back then, oh no, you can't talk to them. They're Protestant.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
No diss on anybody, but that's the way the world was back then.
Well, in Vawa specifically, I remember I interviewed a few people, and they said we didn't know who was French on the street, but we knew where all the Catholics lived.
You see, same thing. And then I'm pretty sure, I guess this is true. My mom got pregnant with me when they were in Europe, my dad and my mom. I guess this is 1956. So she goes to see a German doctor in 56, and he's like, oh, miss, I suggest at least 2 glasses of red wine a day throughout your pregnancy. That might explain a lot. You know what I mean? I don't know if she adhered to his prognosis or his, what is it called? Medication, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's the same. I think even now in Ireland, they're doing, a pint of Guinness a day for the pregnant ladies because of the iron intake.
Well, it keeps the kids to have a base level of alcoholism so that the economy can stay afloat.
That's it. Well, I mean, they put the baby with the thumb with the rum on it, to make them fall asleep at night.
Yeah, it's true.
There's a great introduction to life there.
Yeah. Well, are you Catholic or Protestant?
I grew up RC. I went to St. Thomas High, the English side. My sister was on the French side.
Well, how was that?
Yes, she was 2 years younger than me. My parents figured out, I guess, well, let's raise them bilingual, so they put her in there. I picked up my French on the street and everything. And as I mentioned, my dad's German, so you know how they are. You will learn the language and you will like the language. So I'm trilingual, French, English, and German.
And
but I don't get to practice it much here in Toronto. You know what I'm saying? The French.
Your mom's father was Irish.
That is correct, sir.
So did she speak both language growing up in the house?
Yeah. My mom was French. My grandmom was French Canadian.
And then in your house,
but
is it because but? Holy crap!
There's one you haven't heard in a while, maybe.
So did you? What was the Catholic elementary school you went to?
St. John Fisher, out on Lakeshore Road.
Yeah. That's where
Mrs. Mellon was my first grade teacher.
That's where my kids go now.
No way.
So I want to get into music a little bit with you, because one of the things that's fascinated me a lot when I interview people, because I have 2 kind of parallel passions. One is history and the evolution of things.
Okay.
The other thing is definitely music.
Oh, I did not know that, Jason.
Yeah. I haven't done it much on the channel, but music.
Oh, no wonder we're getting along so well. That explains a lot, my brother.
Music history.
Really?
The evolution of music. It's been something that I've been studying at
Here you go, bro.
such a deep level. Oh my God.
I grew up on the Holy Trinity. Lou Reed, Iggy Pop, and David Bowie.
You're born in what year?
1957.
Okay.
57. So I'm 67 now.
So I've interviewed some people. I don't know if you've seen them, but I did do a video on Ted's Records and Hobbies. So you remember?
I brought my first 45s there. I bought my model airplanes there. I bought my balsa wood gliders there that you built yourself, and you got something literally called dope to put it together. And if you made the plane inside, that was your first high as a kid, because it was this glue cement stuff. And my mom's like, no, Ralphie, you got to go out in the backyard. You can't, because we were getting, my friend Pete Bain up the street, we were getting like, as kids, we didn't know we were breathing this in, and you got high. It was, but the planes, you have the rubber band and you fly it, and it's Ted's. Well, I'll tell you something. I think it was the first LP that was ever purchased for me was by my dad at Steinberg's. Remember the Steinberg's in that mall?
Yeah.
And it was Tea for the Tillerman, Cat Stevens.
Okay.
And that was my first show too at the Montreal Forum in '73. Cat Stevens.
When you started listening to music for yourself, when you started to pick artists yourself, were you following the trends of the day, or did you start to deviate a little bit more underground kind of music? You know what I mean?
I was the guy back then when I was like, I don't know, 16 or something, that literally made mixtapes. Now that the kids are making them, or they did make them, they were really cool. No. And waiting for the guy, he spoke over the intro to the song. When you're taping it off the radio? Remember those days? I don't know if you were young enough to do that too.
Yeah, but how are you getting exposed to Iggy Pop, for example, in the 70s in the West Island?
I'm wondering if it was because of the original reason we're talking. No, it was before then.
Yeah?
It was before La Station. Yeah, the station. Yeah, it was before that. I'm quite sure. It's all a blur.
I wanted to remind everyone still watching that there is a PayPal link in the description below if you want to send a donation to support this channel and support my efforts to continue to create this content as much as I can. I can only do it really through your support. So PayPal link in the description. Any donation will be very much appreciated. Tell me, once you become 18 years old,
Yeah.
would have been, let me carry the one here, 75?
It's 75. So on 75, Saturday morning, I walk into the Maples Inn. Friday was my birthday, my 18th birthday. I walk into the Maples Inn to go shoot some pool Saturday morning, and Willie Constance, the owner, is there. And I said, Donne-moi un gros mot. May I have a large Molson? Donne-moi un gros mot. And he goes, "Ben, sure. I need to see some ID." So I show him my ID, and he looks at it, and he goes, "Bang. Yesterday was your birthday. You turned 18 yesterday." And I'm like, "Yes." He goes, "Bang. You've been coming here over 2 years." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's true. This one's on me." For us, it was the Mapes every night. And I mean every night. I can remember bands playing, and then guys coming in on their Harleys and doing donuts on the dance floor. That's not a Ralphie story. You can Google that. It's true. I'm not kidding you, bro. It was insane. Police raids and...
What was the general vibe of music that you remember at that time?
Rock and roll, and then disco was just coming out. Yeah, West Island, we weren't... The ladies loved the disco stuff, but we didn't...
Yeah, but the Edgewater would have been more disco, eh? The Edgewater
Yes, definitely. That's why the Mapes was our hangout. It was rock and roll. Right. It was Levi's and leather.
And it would have been mostly what's considered now classic rock.
Yes, that's correct. Definitely. Long John Baldry played there. I remember that gig.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Oh. New Wave was just coming out. And there were some cover bands. I can't remember what their name was. something boys, cute boys, something boys. They were doing new wave covers. And it went over at the Mapes, believe it or not, because I guess they were being played on the radio, right? And it was hard to miss that stuff.
Because you would have had Talking Heads would have been coming up in prominence. Blondie would have been coming up.
Blondie, yes. Talking Heads, not as of yet. They were a bit too intellectual for the West Island. Not enough.
Yeah. Was the station your first job?
No.
Where did you? Where
I used to work at Stewart Hall.
So this,
you know Stewart Hall?
Of course.
On the lake? Yeah, my mom worked there. I got my mom a job there. I got my brother-in-law a job there. My first gig, I think I was 14. Caddy at Beaconsfield Golf Club.
Caddying at Beaconsfield Golf Club. Okay.
2 elderly gentlemen. I got their bag, both of them. I'm carrying their bags, right? 18 holes. They tipped me $2 at the end. I can't even look at golfers anymore. No, I'm kidding you. I mean, that was just like, what? Then I used to work at Simpsons in the
Fairview.
Yeah, Fairview.
And then after Simpsons, where would you go after?
I was working at McGill University in cancer research and surgical pathology.
Okay.
So I was a guy, if somebody lost their hand or something or fingers, I would process those into slides. So people could tell it was cancer.
I feel like we just did a big jump here between caddying.
Well, no, that's what I used to do.
And then McGill.
And then I decided I liked working with the whole body. And then I found out that working with live people is even more entertaining than working with parts of dead people. So I left that business. And at that time, I was studying hospitality management at Concordia, and I graduated. I also worked for the city of Point Claire, icing outdoor rinks.
Oh, yeah?
Bro. So you get there, you hook it up to the fire hydrant with the fire hose, and you spray the rink, and the wind sprays on you, so you're soaking wet. Oh. But it's a sheet of ice, right? And then you get in the truck to go to the next rink, and everything thaws out. And you get soaking wet before you go out to do the next one. Oh. It was a gig. And then I remember also, you know the trucks that they have now, the salters? No. Me on the back of a truck going down the 220 with a shovel, throwing salt onto the road. And then St. John's. That's the way it was done back then. But Brew, the money I was making as it was physical labor, right? Was insane for a guy back then that wanted to spend money at the Maples Inn on everything he could. It was like great money, physical labor, but it was really something else. But this is the stuff you could do in the West Island, right? Work at Simpsons, be a caddy, be a work at Stewart Hall. It was all available back then.
Well, let me ask you, at 14 years old, when you wanted to go caddy to go get a job, why did you need money at 14 years old? What were you doing with the 14 years old?
Haven't you ever heard of the Black Cat?
Yes.
There you go.
On the corner of Gulf and Lakeshore.
The person that thanks me most for going to the Black Cat as often as I did is my dentist. It was all candy, right? 3 black balls for 1 penny. You know, bubble gum, and they had a machine there with a pinball with a ramp on it to play baseball, and that place was crazy. It was a candy store. You come out with a little brown paper bag.
And that was the place for that.
It was the place. That's why I wanted to work, so I could go rot my teeth.
Wow.
And of course, at that time, right around then, I wanted to start buying my own music. Right, like LPs and then 45s at Ted's, etc., and my model aeroplanes and stuff like that.
But you said Steinberg's was selling LPs also?
Yes, sir. That's where I got my first one.
Wow.
Yeah, I can remember it like it happened yesterday.
Wow.
$4.99, I think it was. I think it was $3.99, $4.99 for the LP. P for the Tillerman, Cat Steve.
At that time, you would bust your ass, and if you came back with $5, man, you'd have a good time with $5.
$5 at Black Cat? Bro, you're set up for the year.
You
No,
you
not a year.
you,
but
you walk in there. You walk in there like you're Rockefeller.
it's well, yeah. Or you take that $5 and you go to Ted's and you buy another 45. And you hope the B side is at least half decent compared to the A side that you're buying it for. You know what I'm saying?
Let's say starting high school age, say 12, 11, 13. How big was your world? If you got on your bike, how far, what was the furthest you were going? On a weekend or summer? How big was your world?
Go into Beaconsfield maybe for a distance, but there was, if you went anywhere on your bike at that age, you always had a destination. So it was Black Cat, right? Or I remember, I think I even remember cycling up to Fairview once or twice. And I mean, it was a big thing back then. And I mean, it's an old quote, but yeah, go out, have fun. The neighbors will be watching out. Just come home when the street lights are on. When the street lights come on, you got to come home. And then there was a neighbor next door that used to play the trumpet when they wanted their kids to come home. Oh, yeah. We used to play hide and seek until 9 at night in the dark, catching firefly. Do you remember there used to be a Perrette store? Do you remember Perrette's?
Where was the Perrette store? Were you
on Donegany, I think, across the tracks from the brick house? You don't know about the brick house, do you? That was between the 2 and 20 and the tracks. It was an old factory and it was a bombed out bricks. And we used to go to Perrette's.
Yeah.
And Perrette's used to sell apple cider, not alcohol, but for some reason apple cider. And they didn't care how old you were when you bought it. It was apple cider with alcohol in it, content. And so we used to go to the brick house. That's where we had drink, and then go to the pits. And those were the days.
Where is Point Claire and the West Island and all that? Where is that in your memory now? Is it?
Probably the fondest memories I ever had. I grew up there, swimming every day, fishing every day, sailing when I wanted to. The Stewart Hall was a library, right? Mm-hmm. And I almost read every book. And when I could go into the adult section there at the library, there used to be a kids section and an adult section. And then, Stewart Hall, I don't know if you know about this. This might be something for you to look into. Used to have a shooting range in the basement. 22s. I was part of that. Like, where else would you want to grow up? West Island, like Fairview Mall, Fairview Cinema, Dorval Cinema. You could hitchhike everywhere.
Do you come back home ever?
Yeah, my sister lives in Beaconsfield with my brother-in-law and my nephew. Did I mention my nephew's a doctor? Yeah, they're in Beaconsfield. So I go back. I love it. I love going back. And then we always drive by Bayview, where the house where we used to live has been sold and rebuilt. And oh yeah, I remember. And then we go down Claremont Avenue. This is where I used to fish from, and go by the Black Cat and Romano's.
When you said call or Zoom and that you were cool for the recording, it's really cool of you to do this, last minute, just like that, off the cuff. I hope you had a chance to talk about some shit you hadn't been able to talk about in a long time.
Stuff I hadn't even thought about for a long time, to be honest with you. No, really. I'm not kidding you. It means so much to me. Peace out. I love you. Thank you for all you're doing for me. I appreciate it. Great, both of you. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks, man.
Recording stopped.
What the heck? He loves you? That's so nice. You didn't say it back, though.
You didn't say it back, though? We're keeping that part.